Hello everyone and welcome to the class once again. We will be starting with the cranial nerves. So before I start with, I must say what you have done regarding the last assessment test, classroom assessment test, where most of you have written the right answers and you have also gone through the text lines to compare whether something was wrong or not. And that is, I'm happy to know that whatever you have gone through, all of you have gone through right. And some of you who have just copied the answer out of somewhere, I have asked what was wrong and you have written whatever are the contents. That is not going to work. So I have deducted a few marks from that also. The bulk answers I don't accept. I accept only the meaningful answers. Now regarding the cranial nerves, I asked you to go through the study materials which I have given to you in case you don't have the study materials, and also the fact that previous HS science, whatever you have learned regarding the central nervous system would also be beneficial if you have gone through. But I don't think so you have gone through thoroughly, but still we'll be continuing with the classes. So what I will do in the present class is that I will not ask you questions separately. I will provide a form and I'll ask you two questions in this entire video, and those you have to submit from your own conception of the class as well as the things that you need to go through the text. You go through and you form the answer in your mind and write the answers precisely, not in a bulk. I'm telling you, it should be point wise, okay? So the first thing that I am going to do in this class is I am going to just revise the things first of what you know from your previous sciences, okay? So when it is said as CNS, then most of us are in a notion, or most of us what we have seen is in the CNS part, what the biology books they write is they directly write it into two divisions. One is the somatic and the other is autonomic. In the somatic nerves, they are going to write into two parts. The two parts of the somatic system is the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. And in the central nervous system, as you already know, you must be speaking that out. So in the central nervous system, you are including the brain and the spinal cord. And in the peripheral nervous system, you are going to say that as the peripheral nerves, right? The peripheral nerves. In the autonomic nervous system, as you are in a notion of speaking now, that it is divided into two. Yes? What are those two? It is, yes, it is sympathetic and parasympathetic. Well, the first thing is that regarding the divisions you see in the CNS, it is divided. The CNS has been divided into somatic and autonomic nervous system. The somatic nervous system has been divided into central and peripheral nervous system. Central nervous system has been divided into the brain and the spinal cord, and the peripheral nervous system is peripheral nerves. Well, now in anatomy, I know that the somatic nervous system, I can see that there is a brain. Here I am to teach you the anatomy part. So I know that there is a brain, there is a spinal cord, there is a peripheral, there are peripheral nerves like the median nerve, like the ulnar nerve. There are a lot many nerves. These cranial nerves we are going to study. So there is a peripheral system, I can name it, right? There broadly they have been categorized as peripheral nerves. And in the central nervous system, there is the brain and the spinal cord. Now in the autonomic nervous system, when you are naming it as a sympathetic and parasympathetic, is there any cranial nerve by the name sympathetic nerve which is going exceptionally in your body, like just below the skin or maybe over the skin? Is it any nerve that the autonomic nerves are traveling in some different kind of situation, a different kind of path? So my question is that you are dividing the autonomic nervous system into sympathetic and parasympathetic. I won't work here. I won't accept this because this is something you are going to tell when it is a class of physiology. It is a difference that sympathetic nervous system, it acts something like the accelerator in the body, and the other one, parasympathetic system, it acts something like a brake. So both of them are actually acting one at a time or the other. Both of them, you need to run the car, to run the body. Well, now my question is, in this class, how would you classify the autonomic nervous system into this pattern, so that I can make out that yes, in this body, these are the things of the autonomic nervous system. This is my question. My question is, fit in the autonomic nervous system by names as it is there for the somatic nervous system, like we have the central part, which we are including the brain and the spinal cord, and in the peripheral nerves we are including that in the peripheral nervous system, PNS. Just name the things in the autonomic nervous system, which ultimately I can make a hierarchy which is visible to you, which we can see by help of dissection, which is a matter of anatomical discussion in this method, so that the autonomic nervous system is no more a thing which you will just call sympathetic and parasympathetic. Sympathetic nervous system, of course, you know, and parasympathetic by name also you know. One is the accelerator, I am telling you, the other is a brake in a nutshell. Okay. Now you can do one thing. Either you can stop the video here and go through the books once again, or you can follow me. But the question is, how will you put the autonomic nervous system in such a way, like the somatic nervous system having a central and peripheral nervous, which has been somatic nervous system, which has been divided into the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. In the central nervous system, we see the brain and the spinal cord, and the peripheral nervous system, we know there are median nerves, median nerve, ulnar nerve, the cranial nerves. We know that. I can dissect and I can show you also. How will you show the autonomic nerves? This is my question. You have to put it. Either you can go back to your search what you have read, or you can follow me. Okay. After the end of the video, you will give me the input in the form that I provide you, and you will write down in your own words. You will not copy any text from any textbook or any text from the internet. Okay. So moving on. Before moving on, I must tell you that everything in anatomy, when we go through, first I give an introduction. So this is the basic introduction, that the cranial nerves, these are the nerves which are coming out from the brain. Okay. So brain, these are, there are certain nerves which are directly coming out from the brain. As you already know that the spinal cord has got rootlets, which are grouped together from particular segments, say C1 vertebra. In the C1 body of the C1 vertebra itself, the spinal cord segment, that is not segmented. No, the spinal cord is not segmented into small units, like just like the vertebra. We just say that this is the C1 spinal segment because it is just in the level of, or while it is passing through the spinal canal, the spinal canal is made, that part of the spinal canal is made up of the C1 cervical vertebra. Next you go down, you find the C2 cervical vertebra, which is making up through which that particular spinal segment is passing. And while they are passing through that segments, there are fine threads coming out. Those are regrouping, and they are forming, they are symmetrically on both the sides of the same vertebra, they are coming out as spinal nerves. Now there are certain nerves which are directly coming out from the brain, either through the foramen or with the help of some direct foramen, or with the help of some foramen through which other contents are also passing. Okay, if you go through the base of the skull, you will see that there are foramen through which either nerve directly one singular form it is passing, or with the help of some other structures it is passing together. Okay, so these nerves are passing just like the spinal nerves from the base of the skull. Okay, so when this part introduction is done, then we are going to see what is the embryological aspect, or how this nervous system has been how it originated. So when you have to go through that, I'll just revise a few things. The embryology part, I go through every day. When I go through the embryology part, I just refresh the previous things just in one line or two, because it is very important, because most of you are not in touch of the books. So I'll just say that this is the zygote, this is the 16 cell stage, suppose this is the morula, leave this middle, I am not concerned, okay. Then this comes the blastocyst. In the blastocyst, you have a cell mass which is present inside, and that is called as the inner cell mass. As you already know that the outer cell mass is going to give rise to the placenta, or the attachment to the surrounding of the uterine endometrium. This inner cell mass, it is actually giving rise to the embryo, or the cells of the embryo are going to derivate from that, or you can say that actually the body of the individual is going to be formed from this inner cell mass, okay. So the inner cell mass, when it gets implanted, this is the implantation process which is going on. Then they are arranged firstly in the second week of development, or after the 14 days after fertilization, they have been regrouped into epiblast and hypoblast. I think if you are not in a notion of going hearing these names, then you should better consult embryology, because exam is nearing, and after the this event is over, when your classes will begin, then not much of a days will be left out for you to appear the examination. So just go through that. This is called as epiblast and hypoblast, and the period is the second week of development. That second week of development again gives rise to 3 cell layer, which is called as the happening in the third week of development, and which is called as the ectoderm, endoderm, mesoderm, and the endoderm. So all of us, we know that these 3 layers are basically, they will be giving rise to the entire human being. The ectoderm being forming the maximum things which is there in the outside, like suppose the skin, okay, the epidermis of the skin, and the perception of the external environment, that is going to be picked up from the ectoderm, okay. So that gives rise to the notion that actually the CNS, it is given birth, or it originates from the ectoderm, not directly, but what happens is, you can see here that there are cells which are rising from the sides in the form of a tide, okay. In this particular stage, you just see here, these are the 3 layers. I am just redrawing it. This is the ectoderm, this is the mesoderm, large cells, okay, and this is the endoderm. These are very much flattened cells I have indicated, okay. So what happens is that in case of the formation of the neural tube, or the CNS, which it is giving rise to the central nervous system, this neural tube will be formed from an uprising from these ectodermal cells, which are designated to form the neural tube, and further into the central nervous system, and they are going to invade, or they are going to inside after they have formed the ring, okay. They will form a tube or a ring, okay, just like this folded piece of paper I am showing you, okay. They are forming a ring, this one, like this kind of funnel shaped thing, no. So this goes inside, okay. So this is the ring which has gone inside the body, and this is going to form with, it is called as the neural tube. This is actually the transverse section of the body. I am taking a transverse section, and in the transverse section I am going to see the tube, neural tube, as a circle, because this is a tube, and if you take a section, you are going to find a circle. So this neural tube, it is going to form the entire CNS, okay. Just as we know that brain is a little bit complicated process, so let us start understanding the formation of the development of the neural tube into the brain and the spinal cord from the spinal cord itself, because brain is complicated, this is the terminal part, and there are many things that have been formed in layers to give the brain a particular structure which we see now. Okay, the big cerebrum and the both lobes, and the cerebellum on the back side, and the brainstem in the middle. So that structure is difficult to understand. So let us start the process, start learning the process of development of the central nervous system from the spinal cord itself. So I will derive it from the neural tube into the modern day spinal cord, or the adult day, sorry, it's not a modern day, it's the adult spinal cord from that. Okay, in the next slide. So in the next slide, when we go there, as we already know that in this slide I have shown this picture because this is a reflex arc which you have even seen in your higher secondary sciences. You know that the anterior part, this is the gray matter. Okay, so I have to use a different color. Suppose for the gray matter I use the brown color. This is the gray matter, and this is the surrounding area is the white matter. White matter is always white. But I am going to divide this into these things, that the anterior part is motor, that means it is giving rise to the command, and the posterior part, it is sensory, that means that is carrying the sensations from the periphery, either the touch sensation from the skin or the sensation. See, most of you are in a notion that the sensation thing is either of touch or prick or heat or something else from the skin only. No. See, when you are in any state, sitting, standing, anything, your muscles are also, some of the muscles are in a contracted state and some of the muscles are in a relaxed state. So the information of that particular muscle, whether it is in a state of relaxation or in the form of sustained contraction, is also continually being fed to the brain with the help of the sensory nerves. So sensory nerves and motor nerves, they are working together all the time in any state. Even when you are sleeping, your body knows, you do not need to think that you are sleeping. Your body knows that your both hands and the legs are relaxed. Of course, it will take time. If somebody just drops you down from the bed, it will take time, you won't adapt as such when you are in an alert state, but your body will know that you have fallen down, or you have something has been removed, so that ultimately you need to put an effort to stabilize yourself. Okay, that comes because the muscles constantly they are giving their feed out about their position from the sensory nerves. So both of them are equally important. Now my point here is, we should remember that the anterior aspect, so see this person has got the spinal cord here right in the middle on the back side, and this is the anterior part of the person, that means this is the front side of this person, and this is the posterior part or the back side of that person. So from here I am just telling you that this same picture is very simply present in the embryology also. This is the simplest picture of the neural tube, in which I have seen that there is a canal which is present inside. Okay, you know that spinal cord has got a spinal canal, that is a central canal, that is enlarged in the intraembryonic form, and it has got a indentation on both the sides. The one which is called as the sulcus limitans divides it into anterior and posterior halves. So from the adult spinal cord, you know that the anterior part is concerned with motor, or it contains the nuclei of the nerves which are concerned with the motor response, and posteriorly you have the nucleus of the nerves which are concerned with the sensory response. So this, in the embryological term, the sensory plate is called as the LR plate, and the motor plate is called as the basal plate. So the basal plate is placed anteriorly and the LR plate is placed posteriorly. Either you can remember this, or I'll at times keep on telling you about the sensory and the motor only, so that you do not get complicated in the basal and the LR plates. You do not tangle yourself with what was that, what was this and what was that. So The same thing when it has developed, it gave rise to the spinal cord, but the basic concept remained the same. That is anterior to the central canal. This is the motor and the posterior part is sensory. Sorry, I should write here sensory. Okay, so you have the sensory and the motor part. The motor part being in the anterior side of the spinal cord if you divide it into two halves, and look at the color coding which they have given to make you understand that the anterior part, which is the motor form, it has got the nerve nuclei which are red, and the nucleus of the nerve is blue in case of sensory. It is not actually like that. The nerve nuclei are never red or blue. They together collectively they put up a grey hue. That is why it is called as a grey matter. Grey matter is present because the nerve fibers which are myelinated, which are there in the white matter, they finally arise from a nuclear part, nucleus of the nerve, and which never gets myelin around it, around its body. So they collectively they give rise to the collection of all those nerve bodies. They give rise to a grey hue, which is called as the grey matter. So for the understanding purpose, we have used the red part and we have used the blue part. Now you are happy that you know that the motor part has been controlled and you got a sensation also, the sensory part. Okay, so now I ask you to lift up your hand and just lift it up. You say, sir, you have asked me to lift it up. I have processed that. My brain has given the command to the motor system or the spinal cord, leave the brain part, just going to the spinal cord. So in the spinal cord, you will have the nuclei which is present, and in that the firing has happened, so that the muscles have contracted, and the information that the contraction has happened has also gone into my brain, and I can also see that through my eyes. Okay, so I have obeyed to you. So the similar thing I have shown it in this, in which I have seen that the anterior part is red. Okay, you see here in this spinal cord, this is a, I have tried to make it a model that the anterior part which contains the red nucleus, these are the motor nuclei, and the posterior part which you have seen here, these contain the blue nuclei, and that is the sensory part, sensory nuclei. Now the thing is, suppose you are in the class and I ask you, and I am constantly delivering you the lecture on the central nervous system, and I am telling you about the motor and the sensory nerves and their nuclei, and you said, sir, I have well located their position, and suddenly I ask you, okay, tell me now this thing about what is there, what are the things you will see in the brain. Then suddenly you start thinking, how will that look like in the brain, and suddenly you ask me, sir, please give me a break. I cannot think because last night I had a heavy meal, and because of the digestion I have to concentrate on the digestion. Do you need to concentrate on your digestion? Suppose you have taken something at night, very heavy meal, and do you need to concentrate to digest on your matter? No, this is happening automatically. This is the autonomic nervous system you are telling me, right? So the autonomic nervous system has also got their nerves. Obviously the autonomic nervous system, when it has got a motor thing, that your peristalsis, the digestion basically, in a short form I can tell you that while you are digesting, your peristalsis is happening, and so that your things are going down the track, and you have got the sensation also, like something odd goes out, and you, a lot of fatty meal got trapped, somehow it is not going through, or you got some form of a disease, or maybe your appendix, in that appendix constantly there was some food matter entering, whereas your appendix need to be, it need not to do anything of digestion, because in our case it is the vermiform appendix, we don't do digestion from the appendix. So your food matter gone there, and you have got an inflamed appendix. Don't you have a form of sensation? Yes, you have. Suppose you didn't pass stool for quite a few days, or you have some kind of cramps developing. Don't you have a sensation of that? Yes. You have got a sensation of that? Does it? Yes, of course it happens through the inside. So obviously you have got the nerves which are taking care of the digestion process by themselves, and the sensation of that also is being carried out, right? You have got your enzymes which are being secreted from time to time in response to the food stuff which is coming, and in response to your thought also. Suppose you see food and you have salivation, there is something which is coming here, right, which is happening automatically. This is the autonomic nervous system. So since it is not happening in your control, obviously there are motor nerves which are not to be put in this mix up, which is actually somatic. So what I have described, this one, it is somatic. Now you want me to, or I advise you in fact, that you make one more nuclei, one more ball by the side of this large ball, so that you denote it as autonomic. So this is somatic, which I have drawn. Now I am going to draw a nuclei which is autonomic. I am using a grey color. So this is the motor. I am using the reddish version of the spectrum. Okay, please take it in your mind that the reddish, red, orange and yellow I'll use for motor, and the sensory part I'll use the bluish hue, just like the violet, the indigo, the light blue and the green. Okay, so that I'll be using for the sensory part. Now in the posterior part I'll use something which is even more blue, say I use violet. Okay, so I'll use one more nuclei in according in accordance to our demand, that we need more nuclei, or we need nerves which have got their cell bodies present in the spinal cord, which are taking control of our viscera. So when I have added this, the same tube which I have shown here, I have just covered this up, the upper one. I have added two more nuclei in the anterior part. See, these seem to be taking the same color, but actually it is fault of the printer. The printer is not so much good. So you have got one for the motor and one for the viscera, one for the somatic motor and one for the visceral motor. Okay, I have added two nuclei in the spinal cord. Okay? In the spinal cord. Now in the back side, I have given one for the more blue or the indigo one for the the somatic sensory, and for the visual sensation I have given it a light blue. Okay, everybody agrees? Okay, so we have got the two colors, one for the somatic and one for the visceral, both motor and both sensory. So we have got this tube in which actually I use this to show the primitive form, and the downward row I have used for showing that we need the nuclei for the visceral sensation also, which is happening automatically. Okay. Now my thing is that while we are going through the embryogenesis once again, then this I have shown that this is the visceral sensation afferent. By the word afferent, I mean to say that they are carrying the sensory information. Afferent mean they are carrying the sensory information. So by using the black color, this is the posterior part and this is the anterior part. So the same thing which I have told you in the previous slide, here, that I need to add certain nuclei, that I have shown you clearly in this part. This is the posterior part. So these are sensory nerves, two sensory and two motor. Okay, please don't go by the color coding here, because I will make you understand from the color coding from my side. Books use different color coding. Okay, so just take it into your mind that this is the somatic motor, that means which is carrying out the voluntary sensation. The words, new terminologies have been added. So this is called as the somatic motor and this is called as the visceral motor. That means this is controlling the peristalsis and all kinds of things, all kinds of stuff which is not in your control. Even the sweating also. This is something which is which is like your viscera, no, your skin, inside your skin you have got the sweat glands, you have got the sebaceous glands. So those motor responses are collected from there, and you have got the somatic efferent, that is the somatic sensation from the muscles that you have carried on a voluntary response. Okay, somatic voluntary, somatic sensation voluntary. Okay, and in the lateral and while you are coming more medially, you will add one more according to the demand. This is the somatic sensation, which is visceral, which is involuntary. Okay, so you have the voluntary on the most anterior you have the somatic, either motor or sensory, in the anteriormost or the posteriormost parts, and you have two more nuclei which you have added in the middle between them, and one will be the sensation for involuntary and one will be the motor for the involuntary. Okay, agree? Now once again, I just want to tell you that while you have got this trilaminar germ disc, okay, and this trilaminar germ disc, what it will do is, this is suppose a trilaminar germ disc. I will use three different colors. Okay, one is red, ectoderm, then I will use this mesoderm, and I will use this endoderm for yellow. Okay, so what happens is, this plate which you are seeing, this plate, it folds from lateral sides. I will use a black color. So it folds from lateral sides and fuses in the midline. You must be knowing that from your embryology, right? From both the sides, your body was actually separated by a sagittal plane into a flat plate. I think I have told you in embryology part, right? So that flat plate, it got merged or fused in the midline to make it into equal two halves, right? So this is the lateral folding. And it also folded craniocaudally, that means your head and your foot end was brought together. That is why intrauterine, whatever pictures you Google in, you will get that the fetus is in a folded position, because the head is brought very close to the knees or the toes, not the toes actually, because the legs are folded. So that is why the head is very close to the knees. Okay, and the part which is exposed maximum is the back side. I think you are getting me. So there is folding from both the sides, from the lateral sides and from the craniocaudal axis. Cranial means head and caudal means leg. Okay, so from the head to the leg side also there is folding. Okay, so finally the fetus is like this, in a universal flex position, C, like a C. Okay, so now you have studied the embryology part and you are going to tell me, sir, that I will finally, from my knowledge of embryology, I will finally say that a modern day, a healthy adult individual or a healthy newborn will be born. But you know what, from this information, the thing which will be born is this one. So what part is missing? You know ectoderm is there. You have told me, or you are going by the same notion as me, that the ectoderm is there. It is going inside. It forms the neural tube. Neural tube gives rise to the spinal cord, the basic structure of spinal cord, and its adult form comparisons we have also made, and we have made out nuclei for that, right? One for the somatic, that is carrying out the voluntary responses, and one for the visceral, which is carrying out involuntary responses. Because after having a heavy meal, you don't tell me, sir, last time I have a heavy meal, so please wait for a minute, I need to digest, and then you digest and say, yes sir, please continue. You don't tell that, right? So this entire story is for the formation of the brain and the spinal cord, and this is formed from the ectoderm. You are going by the notion that yes, there is a mesoderm. The mesoderm is divided into paraaxial mesoderm, which gives rise to the somites. You know somites, right? So the somites, they give rise to the bones also, and they give rise to the muscles also. Then there is a lateral plate mesoderm, which gives rise to the you know peritoneum, the layers of the peritoneum, the layers of the pleura, the layers of the pericardium. Okay, and there is the intermediate mesoderm, which is giving rise to the genitourinary structures. So the modern day or the adult structure that you will build up from your information is this one. What is missing here? The thing which is missing here is the discussion at the present time or at the present point. What is missing here? Yes. So the thing which is missing here is my second question. You have to tell me about, in short and biologically, how the thing which is missing here, yes, which part? The face, how it is made. And biologically, the ectodermal layers folding from the lateral sides and the craniocaudal folding, it does not make up the face, my dear. No, it is a hollow. You make up a tube like this. You have the gut tube inside and every stomach, everything inside. You have an individual like this, the one I have shown. The two appendages, the hands and the foot are there. Okay, they are the appendages. They are the petals. Firstly, they will appear just like the fishes in the form of fins, and they will grow into limbs. That part also taken care of. Okay, but and the brain will also be formed. You have answered to the ectoderm forming the neural tube, and neural tube, the cranial end, it will form the brain, and the simpler form, the spinal cord, I have already described with their nuclei, motor, somatic and visceral. The face is formed from a different thing. The face is actually formed from something which we call the arches. So you are going to tell me in short, in the form that I provide, about the things which are derived and how the things they are giving rise to the face. Because I cannot in this class continue on discussion about the how the face is formed. You have to read it out. If at all class has not been conducted, don't worry, class will be taken. But you will give a brief readout, and that will help you in that class also if at all not taken, and if at all taken, then it will give a revision of the things which are formed from these arches. Okay, I have mentioned only these arches. What it happens is, these are the special things which are formed, and that helps you and me have got to get a particular identity. No two persons except maternal twins look the same. So these special things, don't you think that they need special nuclei for this? Yes, you may not think, but what God thought was, God gave it special nuclei. Okay? And since these things which are the arches, these are there in your cranial part, I told you, when you do not have these arches, you do not have your face. In your face, what do you have maximum on the topmost? Yes, you have the brain. So in your brain, what happens? Only in the brain part, the spinal cord that you saw had four nuclei, two motor and two sensory. Okay, one for the voluntary and one for involuntary. Both motor and sensory will get one special nuclei, and the exact nuclei name is also called as special motor. Okay, special visceral motor and special visceral sensory. Okay, so in this, now we are going to adopt one more term. We are going to say it not as motor, we are going to tell as efferent. Efferent means going out. So the response is going out, it is motor, and the response which is coming in, it is called as sensory. So for sensory, I am going to tell efferent, and for motor I am going to tell efferent. So now in the head and neck part, in the brain part actually, in the brain part you have got special nuclei which are innervating these arches. Okay, and these special arches, these special nuclei, the name itself have got the name special. Okay, so the special nuclei are respectively named as special somatic efferent and special somatic efferent. Okay, so these are the these are the nuclei which are providing the sensation to the arches which form the face. You have to name it. What are the arches? Okay. So advancing forward to the next slide, you can already see that I have taken a pre-prepared diagram in which I have taken all these nuclei together. So let us give the color coding. The first one is red, it is okay. The second one I will use somewhat brown color. Suppose this one is the brown color, okay. This is red, the second one is brown color, or rather I should use something else, no? I'll use a different color, say this amber color, okay. So this amber color, this is towards the reddish hue, this is a motor, okay. And the third thing I will use is yellow color, this one, okay. So you have got all these three motor nuclei in the brain, okay, somewhere in the brain stem. Now I am just going to focus on the things, okay. So somewhere in the brain stem means the central part which is continuing under the spinal cord once it crosses the foramen magnum. The middle part in the brain which is not divided, which is undivided actually, we can divide it, no doubt, it has got inside also two parts, but it looks like it is a common trunk which is coming down inside the brain itself. So you have got two lobes of the cerebrum, two lobes of the cerebellum, but all of them are attached to something which is like a spinal cord only, but it is present inside the brain. So that is the brain stem. It has been divided into three parts. The midbrain, which is uppermost part, the pons, of course, which is just anterior to the cerebellum, and the medulla oblongata, which is the part below these pons, and it has not reached the foramen magnum or the foramen through which the solid part or the stem is coming out. When it comes out through the foramen, it is called as spinal cord. Yes. So now we are going to see that what are the nuclei that we have designated, are they present or not. You needed a nuclei for the voluntary response of the motor, okay. So that is called as the somatic efferent, okay. All of you are in a same notion, no objections, right? Correctly said. And then we have got a nuclei which will be controlling the visceral, like your digestion and all those things, right? So inside the brain you need a nuclei which is having some visceral nuclei which is controlling the viscera. You don't need to pay attention, the automatic things happening, okay. So that motor thing, it is the general visceral efferent. Now I have told you that you have got a phase which is special, and for carrying out the motor responses of those special things which are derivatives of that arch, you need a nuclei, and that nuclei, it is called as the special visceral efferent. I told you that the face is special. Face is special, yes. You look beautiful, you are special. So face is special. You have got a nucleus, that is called as the special visceral efferent, okay. The similar things which is happening on the other side also, and we will do the color coding. I will use the violet color for the lateral most, then I'll use violet color, then lateral to that the dark blue, then the light blue color, and then the green color, okay. This is the indigo, okay. This is the indigo color, okay. So let us go through the things which is present on the afferent side, the sensation side. What do you need? You have motor 3, you need sensory 3, but see, you have got 4. I'll tell you what is happening here. Let us go through the nuclei. First, let us not directly name the violet nuclei. You needed a nuclei which is for the general sensation to come into the brain in the head and neck part. So that is carried on by the general somatic efferent. The next you want a nuclei which will carry out the sensation from the viscera, okay, and that is the general visceral efferent. Visceral means automatically happening, okay. General visceral efferent, automatically happening, generalized things, not special. Special is what? Special is face, and special is the thing, embryological something which you have to give me as an answer. First question is that one, and second question is this one, what forms the face. So this special, you need a nuclei, and that is called as the special visceral efferent, which is carrying on the sensation from the face. Sensation for the motor or the command for the face, and the sensation for the face is having a separate nuclei in your brain stem, somewhere in your brain stem, and the brain stem comprises of midbrain, pons and the medulla. Okay, so there are, all of these are not in the same plane. Okay, so we have known all these things, and we all are in a same notion that yes sir, whatever you have put in front of me. What is the last one that you have drawn? That is a violet color. The violet color is actually special somatic afferent, as the name goes. It is a special thing, which means that it is there in the face. It is a somatic thing, that means it is something which is related to the voluntary kind of response, and it is carrying sensation. Okay, so voluntary, it is not voluntary actually. The sensation which is some kind of special form of sense, you can say, not voluntary kind of, some special form of sense. Like you have got the sense of vision, isn't that special? In fact, there is a separate department which is named over this vision. This is ophthalmology, and there is WHO branch also on this, which has got special form of programs, Vision 2020, which is dealing with all kinds of blindness. So you have got a sense of smell which is special, right? So there is something in the brainstem which is carrying special kinds of sense, and that sense is actually nothing else than this particular thing which you see as a triangle here, and this triangle is actually your sense of hearing and equilibrium. So in short, I am telling you that there is a nuclei or the presence of nerve cell bodies inside your brainstem which is carrying the sensation, which is very special. In fact, not only in us, in lower animals also. In fact, in lower animals like dogs and all, they can hear from a very far distance. In elephants also, they can hear from a very far distance. So this special sensation which is being carried out has got a special nuclei, and that is additional to the 6 nuclei that I have described, which is for the head and neck region. So spinal cord you need 2 plus 2 4, but in the head and neck, since you have got a face, there is one more nuclei which is added, which is carrying out either the sensational work or the motor work, and for both of them you need 2 nuclei extra, so there is 6 nuclei. Now you will be asking me, sir, in the spinal cord we had a spinal cord with the central canal, and on the anterior part, which has been embryologically denoted as sulcus limitans, this is called as the sulcus limitans, you have divided it into posterior part and anterior part. Now sir, please tell me, what is this? You have drawn all of them in the same plane. Now for that, for describing these things, okay, let me draw it. For the spinal cord, we will have the red color nucleus here, okay. Then we will have the amber color for the viscera motor, okay, visceral efferent, and for the sensory part I will use dark blue color for the the somatic afferent. Somatic afferent means voluntary sensation from the voluntary part, okay. And for the viscera, I'll be using the light blue color, okay. Now this diagram, it arises when your spinal cord has been torn up posteriorly. Suppose I tear this part up and I move both the sides on the lateral sides, so that you have got the sulcus limitans here. Did you see sulcus limitans? I tear up a tube and I make it open with the joining in the middle part. This is the middle part, so that you see all the nuclei in the same plane. With the help of this paper, suppose this is the tube, this has got this motor nuclei below and the sensory nuclei in this part, and suppose I fold this tube, I try to fold it, and when I fold it, I see that they are in the same plane. I have torn it from behind. Do you see it? I have torn it from behind and I see all the nuclei in the same plane. And that same diagram, using all the color codings, I have given it to you. See, all the 7 colors I had to use it. Okay. So all these things which are there in these nuclei, when they come in the same plane, this happens because there is a folding in the brain. There is a folding, this kind of folding in the brain. The spinal cord, while it was like this, it got folded, so that 2 foldings, so that the the nuclei, they come in the same plane. And you know where these nuclei are located? They are, maximum of them, they are located in something which you call as the 4th ventricle of the brain. If you do not know, then just remember, this is the back side of pons. Why it happens? Because this is, suppose this area is the pons. The pons goes ventrally, pons advances forward, and the rest of the things, the medulla and the upper part, that is the prosencephalon, which we call in the CNS, which gives rise to the the diencephalon and the telencephalon, that is the cerebrum and the thalamic nuclei. All these things, they move back, and the medulla also tries to move back, and the pons advances forward. Because of this, the things which are present on the back side of the pons, I have indicated clearly. The things which are present on the back side of the pons, you can see that they are very much visible here, right, in the same plane. And since it is torn up, so there is something which has got to cover it, and these things which is covering it, it is called as the cerebellum. So once you get the when your thing of the brain starts, once you lift up the cerebellum, you are actually landing up on the back side of the pons, and there is a pool of CSF which is called as the 4th ventricle. We will go through the ventricles also, okay. If you do not know, let me tell you that there are 2 lateral ventricles, in which there is cerebrospinal fluid, and there is that cavity of lateral ventricle is present inside the cerebral hemispheres. It comes down together as a narrow aqueduct, as a narrow opening, which is called as foramen of Monro, and finally they are ending up in the space which is in the anteroposteriorly. If you are going to see, it is just like a slit, but actually it is containing much more area. This is the 3rd ventricle, which is actually the space between the 2 thalamus, okay. Then it goes to the aqueduct, and finally they are reaching behind the pons. But what happens behind the pons? The pons, while in the embryological period, it is moving forward. That is why it opens up, and this is called as the 4th ventricle. Who is guarding the 4th ventricle from behind? This is the cerebellum. Now tell me, why the cerebellum, it is giving, like you will be in a confusional state as to why cerebellum was born. See, the thing which is giving rise to the cerebellum, the embryological point is quite tough. For you, I am just making you understand that the neural tube, which is simple, the spinal cord, which inside the brain has folded, let us assume that this is same as what you learned from geography. From geography, you have learned that Asia is a tectonic plate, and in that Asian tectonic plate, you have China and Russia and all those countries. And our India, except the northern part, it is actually most of the southern part and the central part. This is the Indian subcontinent tectonic plate. Both of them in the ancient past, in the geographical something era, I forgot. Both of them, they went close and collided over each other. They gave rise to the Himalayan range. So let us assume here, for the basis of understanding, that since the medulla it goes backside, the cerebral part, the encephalon and the telencephalon, yes, the part which is the prosencephalon actually, when it goes backside, both of them suppose collide. Okay, for the basis of understanding, they don't collide. Okay, so for basis of understanding, that gave rise to the cerebellar lobe, and once it advances forward, okay, and in this thing, the cavity which is there, it is just like, you know, the agglomerated cavities of the Himalayas. So what do you have? You have in the Himalayas some cavities. What are those called as? Caves. So that is a cave which is built inside, and those are not multiple caves. This is a joint cave which is built together. There are no multiple caves, and that cave is called as the foot ventricle. And exactly that cave area is occupying less, in fact least of the midbrain, more of the pons. The backside of the pons is actually the cave, and parts of the medulla oblongata also. Parts means, yes, medulla oblongata it includes, it is there in the flow of the foreventricle. All these special nuclei, they are present in these, in addition to the nuclei which is of course present all over the, the central nervous system, brain on the spinal cord, which includes the one which is under voluntary control, this is the somatic, and the one which is with regard to the automatic control, this is the autonomic. Okay, and there is a special nuclei which is for, yes, for the special part, your face, yes. So the special somatic efferent, that means special somatic, that means body, and efferent means motor. Special motor for the face and special sensation for the face, they equally, there should be one motor and one sensation being added. Yes, one more nucleus for the special sense which is there here in your body, which is in the face part. So this special sense is having a separate special sense, one more nuclei, 3 for motor, 3 for sensory, it should be 6, but one more 7. That is why I had to use the 7 colors, see. So the 7th one is because of your hearing and equilibrium, you know, right? The 8th nerve, vestibulocochlear, together it is coming. So this is the nuclei where the relay center for this is happening. This is the first position where it comes and it gets the relay. Then only you get to think, you get to decide, you get to make it involuntary or voluntary, but the relay station for the hearing and equilibrium, it is present here. Okay, okay. Now going forward, this is the part embryologically which is giving rise to the face actually. Okay, this part, the diagram which has been shown here, and the cut part of the diagram has been shown, and also the lateral sides. In this video I will just show how the folding has happened. Just concentrate on this thing. While this is the prosencephalon, this is the mesencephalon area, and this is the pontine area, and this is the telencephalon area. Okay, together metencephalon and myelencephalon. Okay, telencephalon area. This will go backwards. This will go backwards, but this pontine area, it will move forward. Okay, just look at the video. look at the video. Just see that this, during the folding, the cranial part is having a fold and the pons it is advancing forward. Just concentrate on the rightmost right sided diagram, which is showing the sagittal view. Okay, the lateral view, sorry, the lateral view, just concentrate on that. Okay, so what I was about to tell you is this part, which is the telencephalon area. This telencephalon area, it has got a cephalic flexure, and this medulla oblongata part has got a cervical flexure, and this pontine flexure it moves forward, so that you have got an area which is called as the fourth ventricle. This is what I meant by my diagram. Okay, so you should remember this diagram, and from the video that I have showed you, this is very much clear that the 7 nuclei that I have shown you, actually they are forming the floor of the fourth ventricle. Okay, so they are present, the 7 nuclei that I am talking about now, they are present in actually the floor of the fourth ventricle. So let us go to the diagram once again. So in this diagram, what we are going to see is these somatic efferents, they are these somatic efferents which are actually carrying out the motor response to the general motor response to the head and this head and neck area. We are concerned with the head and neck area now. So in the head and neck area, whatever motor response is being carried out or motor sensation is being given, it is actually by the presence of the nuclei which is spread, which is having a span in the midbrain also, in the pons also, and in the medulla also. So it gives you perfect sense with the understanding that this 3 is actually the third cranial nerve, 4 is actually the fourth cranial nerve, 3 is oculomotor, 4 is trochlear, yes, trochlear nerve, 6 is the abduction nerve, and 12th is, yes, the last nerve, 12th is hypoglossal nerve. So if it may happen that you cannot make out instantly which one is third, fourth, fifth, sixth, then just pause the video for a minute, okay, and just you do one thing, you make a listing of the cranial nerves 1, 2, 3, 4, and you name them, so that instantly you can look at the chart, and gradually when you study more and more, it will be in your mind. Okay. Then regarding the visceral, that means the controlling the visceral sensation of this head and neck region. What might be the visceral sensation of this head and neck region? The visceral sensation of this head and neck region might be like the sensation which is carried on for the for the sense of carrying out your taste, your salivation, right? You have seen some food, so you want to salivate. So that thing is a visceral sensation, right? So that visceral sensation is carried out by the nerve nuclei which are present in this area. These are spanning from the midbrain, also present in the midbrain, also present in the pons, and also present in the medulla oblongata. Okay, I am not talking about any nerves right now. I am just concerned with the nuclei, and do not confuse anything with anything that you have learnt or read till now. We will go into focal points of elaboration when we will be rediscussing these nuclei. Just for the time being, flow into the class that I am discussing about nuclei that are concerned with the somatic motor responses or motor commands given rise to, and those are carried out by the third cranial nerve, fourth cranial nerve, sixth cranial nerve, and 12th cranial nerve. Okay. Then the visceral sensation, since you in the truncal area you have got digestion process, that doesn't mean that digestion starts from your face, right? You already know that the digestion starts right from the mouth. Mouth is there in the face, so obviously you have got the viscera here also. So that general visceral efferent is carried out by the nerves of third cranial nerve, Then other nerves also will be carrying out from these nuclei. The 10th cranial nerve has been mentioned. The 10th is vagus nerve. Yes, the vagus nerve, which is innervating the viscera of the stomach, they are carrying the sensation from this area, which is present in the medulla oblongata. And the nuclear column, the column of nuclei, which is present, is in the same part which it is supposed to carry the efferent for. I mean, the nuclear column or the group is the visceral efferent group. I am making you understand that this is the general visceral efferent, not the some visceral efferent. Special visceral efferent is for your face. Okay, only head and neck region. It is the general. Okay, so general, your digestion is general. So general vagus nerve, which is innervating the same stomach and all these things, also innervating here. You already know right now. So these nuclei are present in this region as it is designated to. As we have started our concept, this is a conceptual thing I am telling, that you have got a motor column. This is the motor column. Then you need a motor column for the somatic and the visceral. You have two. I have just now described. Now for the special, I am using a special color red, and this special color red is for the special motor response which is being carried out in this area. Actually, see, these are carried out by nuclei which are present spanning over, not over the midbrain but over the pons and the medulla. And these nuclei, they are being carried out by cranial nerves 5. Okay, the 5th cranial nerve is the trigeminal nerve. Cranial nerve 7, this is the facial. This is 9th cranial nerve, glossopharyngeal. Then cranial nerve vagus, and this is 11th is the accessory. Okay, so these are carrying the special from the nuclei of the special visceral, which is carrying out the motor response for the face. They are being carried out by these cranial nerves. So you have 12 cranial nerves. I need not to tell once again. We started about studying the cranial nerves, but now I am concerned about understanding the nuclei. See, that is why the concept came into that nuclei are present in the midbrain. Okay, I mean the brainstem, not the midbrain. In the brainstem, nuclei are there, which are arranged in the form of columns. Okay, which are spanning from the midbrain intermittently or continuously, and carrying out the special functions, like carrying out the either the general functions or the special functions or the visceral functions. Now the path they are carrying out or the path by which the neurons are reaching the respective parts, they are the cranial nerves. Are you getting my point? Till now you have read that the parasympathetic is actually cranial nerves, craniosacral outflow, and the sympathetic is thoracolumbar outflow. For thoracolumbar outflow, I don't have any objections. Okay, simply for thoracolumbar outflow, you have got two nuclei, in which one is the somatic motor, and there is a lateral horn in the 12th in the thoracic vertebra, which is carrying out all those visceral sensations, either motor or sensory. Okay, but in the brain region, in the head and neck region, we have columns being very much separate. But when these columns are finally following the path, just like in the spinal nerve, when they have to reach their destination, they are using the cranial nerve. So cranial nerve does not always carry parasympathetic nerves only. They are carrying the parasympathetic response plus the general the somatic response also, somatic motor efferent, somatic efferent, or visceral efferent also. So please try to look at the video if you have confusion from the first part itself, and please orient yourself. While trying to make you understand about the cranial nerves, I am basically giving you the knowledge of the cranial nerve nuclei, and the nuclei has are one for the general somatic motor, one for the general visceral motor, which we call general somatic efferent and general visceral efferent, and the special visceral efferent for the head and neck, that thing, the arches derived things, arches derived muscle, arches derived gland, whatever it is, those arches, whatever they are giving rise to, is carrying the general the motor sensation from these columns. Okay, so these columns, some of the this one, some of the nuclei, they have got names like the nucleus ambiguous. Okay, there is one name which you can see here. I will erase all them on slide. So once you see here, this is the nucleus ambiguous. Okay, but for the others there is no name, but this is, we will be telling that this is for the, suppose for the fifth cranial nerve I am telling, this is the fish trigeminal nerve. So when I will be telling the trigeminal nerve, I will be telling that the special visceral efferent sensation is carried out from a nuclei which is located in the pons, and trigeminal nerve, as you know, is maximally it is sensory. So that sensation, the sensory column, is general sensory efferent which is present over here. So trigeminal nerve is having contribution from here also, and finally it is coming out. So this is just an example as to tell you what are the cranial nerves. They are having contributions from all nuclei. Not all cranial nerves carry sensation from each one of them. As you can see here, 3rd, 4th, 6th, 12th is especially these 3, 4, 6, 12. They do not have anything much, especially 4th. See, 4th, no names over the sensory part. Do you see 4th cranial nerve carrying sensation? So this is especially the motor nerve. 3, 4, 6, 12. These are specifically, these are motor nerves. So that is why in the cranial nerves you have got divisions also as motor, sensory, exclusively motor, exclusively sensory, and mixed. Okay, so we will come to know gradually when we take up one by one the cranial nerves. We will realize that it takes from that nuclei it is carrying that sensation, from this nuclei it is, so that is what it makes it complicated. Okay, so let us again advance towards the sensory part just to complete this part, that the special visceral and the general visceral efferent carrying sensory information is grouped together in these columns, which are carried on by the 7th facial, 9th glossopharyngeal, and 10th the vagus. Okay, the general sensory efferent, the general sensation of the face together, either from ophthalmic, either from maxillary division, or from the mandibular division of the trigeminal nerve, the general sensation is finally reaching its destination here. In certain cases it may happen that in fact it is being carried out by the 7th cranial nerve, which is the facial nerve. Sensation is being carried on by a twig, and it joins the trigeminal nerve subdivision, and finally it reaches the nuclei. But the nuclei has been designated as to be carrying the sensation from the head and neck region in this particular area, that is, this is the area of the brain. Which area of the brain I am discussing? This is the brain stem. So the nuclear column of the brain stem, this is elongated. Don't you see? There is no nuclei which is occupying as much space as this nuclei which is for the trigeminal nerve, because the whole span of the sensation is being carried out from different parts, either through the trigeminal nerve or with the help of some other pathways also. Pathway means other cranial nerve also, and finally it is reaching this part. Okay, so crisscrossing it is happening. It is some kind of plexus. So you have also got ganglia which is carrying out this mixing. You have got, for the parasympathetic nerves, you have got the otic ganglia, you have got the submandibular ganglia, you have got the pterygopalatine ganglia, right? So all these ganglia are also doing the mixing. It is taking the particular nerve tweak from somewhere, delivering it to something else so that it finally reaches this destination. Okay, so this is the complexity of the situation, nothing else. You need to have the understanding as to nuclei has been designated, special areas in the brain where it has to reach to create that kind of response has been designated, but the pathway it may take will be different. That is why each and every cranial nerve has to be studied, so that where it carries out the response, either general response or special responses, okay, or general visceral afferent response, afferent means sensory responses, or general somatic responses, and finally reaching these nuclei. So that is why it is read as a separate chapter. Now this diagram is just to show you that see how they are spanning. This is for the trigeminal nerve. This part is sensory, this half is sensory, and this half it is motor. So that is how they are describing it. You will get this diagram, okay. Just have a look of this diagram. Now this is actually going through the slides so that we don't miss any part. There are 12 pairs of cranial nerves, and 2 pairs are arising from the forebrain itself, that is the optic nerve and the olfactory nerve. So since they are carrying directly the sensation, special sensation directly to the brain, so they are not included as to be the cranial nerves which are arising from the brain stem. Brain stem is the middle part, okay, the middle part which is not divided just like the cerebrum or the cerebellum. It is the solid part, just like the tree trunk. It is coming downwards, okay, undivided, and it is divided into midbrain, pons, and the medulla oblongata. Okay. Now, so the 10 pairs are left. 12 cranial nerves are there. 2 are gone already, directly taking their they are arising from the brain. So 2 are gone, and 10 are left. So let me tell you one basic concept here, that when you have got the cranial nerves, 12 cranial nerves, just have a basic understanding that the upper 4 are arising from the midbrain, the middle 4 are arising from the posterior part of pons. I have shown you how posterior part of pons, that is the floor of the fourth ventricle, and here also the 4 cranial nerves are arising from the nuclei are arising from the posterior parts of medulla. You have to deduct -2 for the 2 cranial nerves, 2, 1, 1 and 2, first and the second cranial nerve. So cranial nerve 1 and 2 are directly arising from the brain, that is why the cerebrum. So that is why you deduct 2. So here, from here, two nerves, the sequential nerves, I mean cranial nerve 3 and 4 are arising from midbrain, then 5, 6, 7, 8 from pons, 9, 10, 11, 12 from medulla. So this is a concept, okay, please remember. Now let us go into the division according to the sensation they have carried. I have already told you that vestibulocochlear, olfactory and optic nerve, they are carrying out the sensation, and these are very special sensations. In fact, in lower animals, they are helping them to survive. The sense of olfaction is helping the bear to survive, to smell his prey from such a large distance. We don't need to have such sensation. The vestibulocochlear nerve, this is the cochlear apparatus, the hearing of the elephant. It is very important to hear from a long distance. Of course, they are having added features also. And the optic nerve, the sense of vision, our colored vision, it is very important. The monocular, the binocular vision, the colored vision which we have, and the vision, the black and white vision of the lower animals like the dogs and the cats. It is very important to catch their prey even in the dark. Okay, so these are special sensory nerves, and they are having only contribution from the sensory areas. Okay, vestibulocochlear in our case I have already shown you, there is a separate nuclei for that, and this nerve is carrying only that sensation from that particular nuclei only, and no other contribution from any other nuclei is going there through that nerve. So that is why we can classify it as sensory cranial nerve. Olfactory, obviously olfactory nerve directly from the olfactory bulbs, it is coming out as olfactory nerve. Optic nerve is actually having its contribution from the occipital part, which is considered to be the lobe which is processing vision. So that is why the optic nerve, it is directly carried on through the lateral geniculate body, and it is ultimately reaching the eye. Okay, so this optic nerve, it is carrying vision and it is sensory only. No motor thing is going there. You have got muscles inside, right? You must be thinking, sir, we have to got ciliary muscles, we have got dilator and constrictor pupillae muscles. Are they not being innervated by the optic nerve? No, my dear. When did I say? And you should not also have that notion that it is controlled by the optic nerve. It is controlled by the oculomotor nerve. Oculomotor nerve is a motor nerve. So then again, let us go to the motor nerves. The motor nerve are respectively the oculomotor nerve, trochlear nerve, abducen nerve, then the cranial or the spinal accessory, and the hypoglossal nerve. These are only carrying motor parts, that means motor sensations, that means they are giving only commands. They are not carrying any type of sensation from anywhere. Oculomotor nerve is for the extraocular muscles, as you already know, leaving the superior oblique SO4 trochlear and inferior oblique 6 abducen. So SO4 and LR6 is already there. These are motor. This is already completed in the orbit part. Left is accessory nerve. Accessory nerve, it is innervating the muscles of the pharynx, some part of the palate also. Okay, and the hypoglossal nerve, this is directly the motor nerve for the tongue. Motor for the tongue. You must be knowing that, or even if you don't know, just start learning from now that the hypoglossal nerve is a motor nerve. It does not carry any kind of sensation. No, my dear. Your taste sensation, is it carried out by hypoglossal nerve? Already completed tongue? No, it does not. So this is the classification, functional classification we can put up, because we can broadly, whenever you are given a special nerve, okay, tell me whether oculomotor nerve will carry the sensation over this area. You can directly come into a a pinpoint precision answer that no, oculomotor nerve is a motor nerve. It cannot carry any kind of sensory nerves sensation. The fourth one is a mixed nerve. Now the concept is 5, 7, 9, 10. You must be thinking, sir, we have got different kinds of mnemonics. In my UG days also, I also had mnemonics to remember all these things. So do we need special mnemonics to remember that the olfactory nerve, optic nerve and vestibular cochlear nerve, they are carrying only sensation? Do you think that the thing you are seeing is a motor response? It is a sensation. And if you remember the oculomotor trochlear abduction, which is there discussed in the eye itself, almost all the muscles are of the motor nerves have been covered. Only two are left. One is for the tongue, you have to remember. Obviously have to remember, there is no logic. And accessories, spinal and cranial. Accessory nerve has got two parts, spinal and cranial, and that is a nerve which is motor. Now this 5, 7, 9, 10, actually this is a concept. See, I have shown you something and then I have asked you, there are presence of arches, okay, which is giving rise to your face. Otherwise a monster will be born, as you have seen already in the slide that a monster will be born. So in order to prevent that monster to be being born, I am telling you that this particular arches, first this is the first one, second one, third one and fourth one are respectively innervated by 5, 7, 9, 10, and that is why they are carrying mixed sensation, both sensory and motor. That means the different nuclei that you have seen, total 6 nuclei, leaving the 7th, because 7th is vestibulocochlear, going by vestibulocochlear nerve. So these mixed, all the mixed nuclei, either taking one contribution from motor, or two contributions from motor, or one contribution with additional contribution from one of the sensory nuclei, or two special visceral and motor sensory nuclei. These nerves are carrying the sensation to the different parts of the head and neck region. So these, in short, you can also tell 5, 7, 9, 10 are the nerves which are meant for the arches which make up the face. So you have to describe also. That is why I have asked you to describe in short, in your own words, after studying the textbook, not copying and pasting. I don't want that. I will deduct marks. Okay. So you have to describe about the brachial or pharyngeal arches, which we call it nowadays. Now this is a general table. The general table, just look at the motor part first. So the general somatic efferent, it is carrying out the innervation from the skeletal muscles. Now you are telling me, suppose the example is the special example here I am drawing. This, wait, special example I am drawing is, there is no space actually, this one. I will use a red color. Okay, this one. Okay, so what is this? My diagram is not proper. I want to just make some points of identification. This is the sulcus terminalis anterior. So what is this organ? This is the tongue. Let us take the example of the tongue. In the tongue, the nuclei, general somatic efferent, is carrying the motor innervation, means the hypoglossal nerve. It is innervating the muscles of the tongue, all of the muscles except palatoglossus, right? So that hypoglossal nerve is the general somatic efferent nuclei, which is providing the information, motor information, to the muscles of the tongue. I can put out my tongue, I can put it inside at my will, and these muscles of the tongue are being derived from the occipital somites. You know, somites are giving rise to, whether occipital or cervical or thoracic, they are giving rise to all the muscles and the bones of our entire body. So these occipital somites, they migrated from here and gave rise to the muscles. That is why the embryology part of the tongue is very important. So this hypoglossal nerve, 12th cranial nerve, it is giving rise to the motor response. Now let us go to the general visceral efferent. General visceral efferent, that means the lacrimation, the process you see food, and when you see food, then you start salivating. There is a nuclei, I have shown you, salivatory nucleus, SAL, see in the diagram, review the video. There is a nucleus. So that nucleus, with the help of any twig, either with the facial nerve twig or any other nerve twig, they will come and they will provide the innervation to the submandibular gland. So that is the general visceral efferent which is coming for the tongue. From that nuclei it is coming, taking help of any of the nerves. Any of the nerves, it is switching nerves also when it is passing through ganglia. It will be coming from some other nerve, switching over to some other nerve. Okay. Then the special visceral efferent. This is the special motor innervation for the skeletal muscles which are derived from the pharyngeal arches, palatoglossus of the tongue. Okay. Suppose this completes the motor part. Then going to the sensation, general somatic afferent. That is the sensation, general sensation. Of the tongue, suppose we are discussing, of the tongue, the lingual nerve, it is a contribution from which part? The anterior or the posterior part? Posterior part. So posterior part of the mandibular nerve, that is a trigeminal nerve. Trigeminal nerve is feeding the, yes, trigeminal nucleus, which is the big nucleus which is carrying on the general sensation of the head and neck region. So the sensation, general sensation of the tongue is being carried out. You know about the position of your tongue, whether it is inside your mouth or it is outside your mouth. You don't need to look, no? Can you look at your tongue, whether it is inside or outside? You just know. So the general sensation is there. General visceral afferent, okay. So the sensory input from the viscera, suppose your, the part like in the columns itself, I have shown you that the general visceral afferent and the special visceral afferent has been grouped together. Although I have told you that you need to have two different nuclei for that, but in the head and neck region they have been grouped together. Just review the video and look at the table. They have been grouped together. Although the colors have been designated different, but in the downwards table you can see that they have been grouped together, the general visceral afferent and special visceral afferent. So this sensation from the taste, the general sensation, special sensation about it being derived from the arches, and the special taste sensation, it has been divided into anterior 2/3 being different, posterior 1/3 and posterior most being different. Okay, you already know. If you do not know, just study about the tongue. So that taste sensation along with the general sensation from the tongue, visual sensation from the tongue, okay, all of that is going to the same nuclei which has been given a green color in that table. Please take a look at that. Okay, so this is taking help either of the facial nerve, chorda tympani branch, or the glossopharyngeal nerve, or of the vagus nerve, but finally reaching into that particular part which is the nuclei, combined nuclei for general visceral and special visceral afferent. Okay, so this is a special case in head and neck region where the special visceral and the general visceral are grouped together. Although they are shown different, but actually functionally they are grouped together. Okay, and the much of the detail you need not to go there. Okay, advancing forward, we will be going into the oculomotor nerve, the first, second being olfactory and the optic. So my point is, in the oculomotor nerve, just remember that oculomotor nerve has got a nerve nuclei, motor nerve nuclei, you already know, to move your eyeball, extraocular eyeball muscles, okay, except the superior oblique and lateral rectus muscles, okay. These all the extraocular muscles, since they are being innervated by this, and also oculomotor nerve carries twigs which are specially controlling the parasympathetic response of your eye, constriction of pupil, which is parasympathetic, right? Constriction, dilatation is different. Constriction of pupil. So that is why it is having two nuclei being fed. Two nuclei are feeding this oculomotor nerve. One is the most of the fibers arising from the oculomotor nuclear complex, that nucleus which is carrying out the general efferent sensation, general, I mean the this voluntary response of your moving the eyeball. That nucleus is called as oculomotor nucleus proper. Okay, from that nucleus it is having twigs contribution, and there is one more just medial to that. This is called as adengovascular nucleus, which is at the same level in the midbrain. I think you must know that these 3 and 4 is in the midbrain. Oculomotor and trochlear is there in the midbrain, the nucleus. So designated oculomotor nuclear complex is providing its nerves, and also there is a adengovascular nucleus which is providing the parasympathetic nerves, so that your ciliary muscles are being fed. Ciliary and the constrictor pupillae muscles are being fed. So these are coming from that nuclei, and they are finally going through the cavernous sinus. Cavernous sinus is present on both the sides of the body of the sphenoid, and finally coming out through, yes, through the superior orbital fissure. Just a few days back I just took the class, so if you have not gone through, just remember, go through and just try to remember that the compartment has been compartmentalized, and you have also provided the answers that there are so many nerves, sir, you have not mentioned. Yes, that is what I wanted you to learn. So my main notion here is that inside the annulus of Zen, you have got the oculomotor nerve dividing into superior and inferior branches. Superior branch, obviously it will supply the muscles which are there in the superior part, levator palpebrae superioris and the superior oblique muscle. Okay, superior rectus muscle, and inferior oblique, obviously it will supply the muscles which are present below, right? The inferior oblique muscle is there, then the medial rectus is there, then all those muscles, they are being supplied by the inferior division. So when it enters the annulus, just before that it is dividing into two parts. So while it is going there, before it reaches the fissure, the superior orbital fissure, it is going through the cavernous sinus. Okay, when it arises from the midbrain, it is coming from the midbrain. When it arises in the midbrain, the structures, anatomical structures which are present when it arises are the posterior communicating artery, which is the artery of the circle of Willis, and also the posterior cerebral artery and posterior superior cerebellar artery. So you just remember the names for the time being, since the circle of Willis is not completed. But the position I will somehow try to make you remember. Okay, from the model which I have, I will try to make you remember. But the structures, when it is just emerging, it is very near to the posterior cerebral artery, because brainstem, that area in the posterior part of the cerebrum, so posterior cerebral artery and superior cerebellar artery. So cerebellar arteries are two: superior cerebellar artery, inferior cerebellar artery. So superior cerebellar artery and posterior cerebral artery, those are close to when it is just emerging out of the midbrain. When it advances forward, it is going side by side to the posterior communicating artery, which is a branch from the the internal carotid artery, which is coming backwards. Okay, so that when it follows, it enters inside the sigmoid sinuses, the cavernous sinuses. So when it advances in the cavernous sinus, it is very close to the trochlear nerve. You have already seen, and you can imagine, because trochlear nerve is going to the eye. It is very close to the the ophthalmic artery also. It is very close to the optic nerve also when it reaches the superior orbital fissure. So all those relations you can make out from the your previous knowledge also. So just let us go through. So this is the exact area. So please try to remember one thing. This is the oculomotor nerve. This nerve, which is the loner, all nerves are coming out from the ventral surface or anterior surface of the brainstem. You have a brainstem, from anterior surface all of them are coming, except the trochlear nerve, which is innervating superior oblique, SO4. So this nerve is a low nerve which is coming out from the back side. See, it is having an arch and it is coming from the back side. So oculomotor nerve and trochlear nerve, they are coming one from the front side, oculomotor, and one from the back side. They are finally coming anteriorly, and when they are supplying all these things. Okay, those have been discussed. And this is the adenoidovascular nucleus which I am telling, and it is supplying all these constrictor pupillary muscles. Okay, so let us look at the finally at the part which I have promised to show you. This is the model of the brain which I have. Okay, and in this model I have shown you that this is the, on one half I have included the cerebral hemisphere. This one is the cerebral hemisphere which I have. This is the sphenoid bone. Okay, and on this side I am showing you what are the things that are coming out. Okay, so let us move it and let us go inside to be very clear. My computer has become a bit slow. Okay, so here you can see that this is the oculomotor nerve. I think you can make out this is the oculomotor nerve which has been highlighted, and all the other nerves that you see here. So this is the trochlear nerve which is coming from the back side. This is the trochlear nerve. I'm sorry. So this nerve which I have made out, this is the trochlear nerve. Okay, it is not coming properly. This is the trochlear nerve. This nerve which is coming from the below part, this is actually a part of the trigeminal nerve also. Okay, and this nerve which is coming directly advancing, this is the trochlear nerve, also this is the optic nerve. So you can see that there is relation of this particular part. This is the posterior communicating artery, PCA, that I am telling. Okay, and this is the superior cerebellar artery. This is the superior cerebellar artery that I am telling, and there is also a posterior cerebral artery which has not been shown. So there will be a posterior cerebral artery also. Posterior cerebral artery. Okay, it is not coming much. Okay, so please excuse me for all these things which cannot be written here. No, in this software it is making it a little clumsy. And this thing which you are seeing, this is actually the cavernous sinus. Okay, so from the cavernous sinus, all these things are traveling, and finally, when it reaches the anterior part, you can see that from the superior orbital fissure it has finally emerged. So all these relations you have to once again go through for yourself so that you remember, and the contributing nucleus and the parts to which it finally supplies. Okay. So with this I complete this class, and this class is never complete until and unless you read the things from the book. Okay. Because I have tried my maximal effort to give you the concept behind what is the cranial nerves and what is the cranial nerve nuclei. But you have to tell me two questions. One is the peripheral nerves. About the peripheral nerves, how you are going to anatomically differentiate into the central parts and the peripheral parts, that you are going to tell me, because you have already gone through the lesson and you know how you are going to differentiate it. And the second thing is what derives the face. Okay, so you are going to answer that in a form which I am going to provide you. Okay, thank you.